This video is brought to you by AG1. Everything you're about to hear is true. This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. Right next to him is Barack Obama. Standing in the White House Rose Garden, Miranda prepared to do something never before attempted in history. He was going to perform a freestyle rap with the President of the United States of America. Mere months before Miranda's cannonball of a new musical, Hamilton, truly exploded into a cultural phenomenon, this moment in March of 2016 symbolized the calm before the hurricane. Not just for the show, but for its creator. This was 1 month before he won the Pulitzer Prize, 3 months before the show won 11 Tony Awards, and 9 months before the Hamilton mixtape dropped with some of the hottest names in rap and hip-hop. Standing on the edge of superstardom, Lin-Manuel Miranda unknowingly took 1 minute and 43 seconds to embrace the life he was leaving.
I'm a hella racket. I make a hella racket. I don't know what to say. I take it and pack it up like lunch, and then I bunch and I munch and I bunch like a fucking Captain Crunch.
Before rapping on a Revolutionary War battlefield, Lin-Manuel Miranda rapped in low-lit New York City bars with Freestyle Lives Supreme, an improv rap act where the worlds of Tupac and Whose Line Is It Anyway collided. Standing across from the president in 2016, the White House Rose Garden ceased to exist, as Miranda went right back to a dimly lit rehearsal room in 2004, a time before Hamilton and In the Heights, when freestyle and love reigned supreme.
I'm working 16 hours a day. I try to eat right, never do great. Still now I don't wanna crash. More natural energy's what I'm looking at. When I get vitamin B, I get sustainable energy. So now I've got a drink without crashing from coffee. I went on the internet and found the website AG1. I got a big box to better my nutrition. I take it every morning on time, helping out my gut with some enzymes. Vitamins from AG1 leave me feeling happy and healthy. Get a whole year for free of vitamins from AG1. Get a whole year for free of vitamins from AG1. Head to my link in the description below to get a free 1-year supply of AG vitamin D3 and K2, plus 5 AG1 travel packs with your first purchase of AG1.
Yo, homie, I gotta move. Every time I rhyme, you know how I gotta do it. It's like any given Sunday. My words more powerful than Al Pacino in a locker room.
Rap didn't start in a studio. It didn't start in some executive office space for some powerful record label. Rap started on the New York City streets.
The South Bronx is trying to rise from the ashes. It is a battle to do so.
And the people who live around here say they're tired of what they call all the broken promises.
In the early 1970s, predominantly black and Latino boroughs like the South Bronx became the symbol of urban decay. The area was one of many to be neglected funding by policymakers, leading to the rapid collapse of its infrastructure, a decrease in jobs, and an increase in crime. The borough literally burnt to the ground, with nobody to turn to for help. People needed an outlet to express their frustrations, to speak up against these injustices, against the negativity, and against the violence taking over their communities. Hip-hop and rap gave that power. At first glance, it might be easy to assume rap and hip-hop are the same thing, but they're not. Rap is a type of music. Hip-hop is the culture. An artistic movement of turntablism, DJing, graffiti, rap, and breaking, also known as b-boying, g-girling, or breakdancing, challenged the idea of what society deemed as worthy art. The purest example of this still lives today with the Cypher.
Side to side, if you loving the vibe, say hell yeah, hell yeah. If you loving the Cypher, then throw your fist up, boy. If you loving the Cypher, then throw your fist up, boy. If you loving the Cypher,
hip hop came from the struggle, and you know what happens with humans? Every human comes from a struggle. Yo, my name is M-I-K-Y, Mickey, you feel me? And A part of Legendary Cyphers, when we in a circle, is an exchange of information. Anywhere that you're at, with a group of people, that's a cypher. Like, you're having a cypher all together, you know?
Eminem in Detroit and make him walk like 8 Mile.
Hey, yo, bro, why walk when I can stand in? You got the knowledge, you got the wisdom teeth, but I got the understanding. Hold on.
Rules of freestyling? I don't think there's any rules of freestyling. I think that's the main rule of freestyling, that there are no rules. Yo, it's Eli Black representing Legendary Cyphers. Paying attention, I think, is the main thing to do in a cypher. You have to. You can't just be focused on rapping because then you get distracted. You may not even see what's going on. You may be the energy that's just throwing everything off because you weren't paying attention to what's happening before you. You know what I mean?
The energy of the cypher is both undefinable and irresistible. It's a battle of words and expression, an outlet to release emotional turmoil, a place where everyone jockeys for their shot at the mic to speak their truth. It's community, it's ego, it's survival. Compared to the slick and grimy sidewalks of Union Square Park, the carefully manicured paths of Wesleyan University in Connecticut might as well been a completely different planet. As former high school sports star Thomas Kail entered his junior year at Wesleyan, he found that life didn't have charts to explain the next play. Growing up, he could outmaneuver any goalie and hit any pitch that came his way. In real life, not so much. The same went for his friend Anthony Veneziale, a Wesleyan senior who got cut from the college soccer team 2 years prior, only to audition for an improv company called Gag Reflex 3 days later. Veneziale eventually dragged Kail into the theatrical arena as the assistant director for a school production of Hamlet Machine, a highly experimental, loose retelling of Hamlet. Veneziale and Kail came from very different upbringings, but clicked over a shared love of hip-hop. Given hip-hop's importance as a cultural art form and expression of oppression specific to BIPOC communities, it's surprising that 70% of rap consumers are white suburban males. This trend isn't new. It happened with jazz in the 20s and rock and roll in the 50s. Researcher Janice M. Blackshear attributed this trend to white listeners subconsciously using Black and Latine struggles to negotiate the boundaries of their true suburban identities. But Veneziale viewed the fusion of rap and theater as a way to explore the conversation of race, and Hamlet Machine was the vessel.
I cast the show with 2 Black Ophelias and 2 white Hamlets, and it was about an interracial relationship. And so we were just trying to explore what it meant to be here at this college, trying to ask questions of each other. Why didn't we know each other better?
Veneziale gathered the cast and crew on stage before the start of each performance for their very own Cypher session.
It was just this lovely opportunity to say, I'm not good at this thing, I'm going to try it anyway, and we're going to use a Black art form, as which hip-hop is and rap is, to start this conversation that would later happen for the rest of the show.
Veneziale's love for freestyle was hardly a secret. He grew up near Philadelphia in the 80s and 90s, when the city's hip-hop scene flourished thanks to acts like The Fresh Prince, Will Smith, and The Roots. Any house party Veneziale attended in college inevitably turned into a freestyle rap session, and sometimes he even brought a piece of cardboard to do some breaking. After graduating, Kail and Veneziale both found their way to New York City, and eventually started a theater troupe called Backhouse Productions. To help pay the bills, Kail got a job as a personal assistant to Tony Award-winning actress Audra McDonald. Veneziale, who moved to the city with just $200 and a mattress, got a catering job and started auditioning for acting gigs. In 1999, the two friends embarked on a grueling 18-hour road trip, made even worse by severe hail pelting their car. To take their mind off the drive, Veneziale turned on Daft Punk's song Around the World and freestyled over the beat for 4 hours straight while Kail bobbed along. Caught up in the magic of the moment, the hail and cyclones disappeared, replaced with memories of college cypher sessions and late-night freestyle parties. Soon after returning to the city, Veneziale and Kail got their first break into the world of show business. The owner of the 100-year-old drama bookshop, Alan Hubby, was looking for a theater troupe to stage shows in the shop's new basement theater and offered the spot to their Backhouse Productions. Just like that, they had a space. Now, they needed a show. In November of 2001, an equally unsure Wesleyan senior named Lin-Manuel Miranda watched a musical in a darkened theater and contemplated his future. The show was Tick, Tick, Boom, an autobiographical musical about Rent creator Jonathan Larson's less than ideal early years writing in New York City. Miranda, a young composer raised on Andrew Lloyd Webber and Fat Boys, recognized that both musicals and rap emphasize storytelling, and looked to bring the worlds together in a show called In the Heights. But walking out of Tick, Tick, Boom on that brisk November night, Lin-Manuel Miranda realized getting In the Heights to Broadway was going to be a lot harder than he thought. When Miranda joined the theater program at Wesleyan University in 1998, his path briefly ran close to that of Thomas Kail and Anthony Veneziale. Veneziale TA'd one of Miranda's classes, and Kail only knew of him as the kid who kept stealing his stage lights. Yet Miranda kept popping up. Kail's friends kept mentioning some musical the annoying freshman was working on and sent Kail a couple demo tracks of In the Heights. The rap and hip-hop influences were unlike anything Kail ever heard in a stage setting. It sounded less like a musical and more like something he would listen to if he were just buying a CD. Kail kept tabs on Miranda until he graduated in 2002, immediately inviting the young composer to the drama bookshop basement. The two spent hours discussing what In the Heights was and what it could be. When all was said and done, Miranda agreed to partner up with Thomas Kail and Backhouse Productions to bring In the Heights to life. When rehearsals for the rap-heavy musical started, the drama bookshop's newest employee, Anthony Veneziale, sensed an opportunity to pursue an idea he'd been thinking about ever since that 18-hour car ride. A freestyle rap improv show. During every other In the Heights rehearsal break, Veneziale popped in to freestyle rap around the piano with Miranda, only stopping once Kail stepped in to get the rehearsals back on track. Veneziale's parting words were always, "We should do this in front of people." Kail and Miranda thought he was joking, but after Veneziale said this consistently for a year, they realized he was serious. The first rule of improv theater? Always say yes. The second rule? Be quick on your feet. In August of 2003, Veneziale finally convinced Miranda to perform their freestyle rap show at the People's Improv Theater, or the Pit. The night before their first show, New York City experienced one of the worst power outages in history, when a tree branch hit a power line in Cleveland, Ohio, and plunged 8 states across the East Coast into darkness. Though the lights in the city were slowly turning back on, everything from 34th Street down remained dark. The two showed up to the Pit on 29th Street to find a crowd of 16 excited friends waiting to see the show and a performance space still without power. But the lights were on at the drama bookshop, and Veneziale had the keys. Veneziale and Miranda led the merry band of 16 friends up 11 blocks to the bookshop basement. Walking in the crowd was an upstart producer named Jill Furman.
An actor called me and said, "You need to go see this show that's being workshopped in the basement of the drama bookshop. It's a Latino Rent." And I thought, oh no, everything is a something Rent, but okay. And that was the beginning of my relationship with Lin-Manuel. At that moment, I said, I have to be in his life. And I said to my dad, "Fun to produce with you, but I'm going out on my own and I need to produce this musical." And so that's how it all began.
Also in the crowd was Bill Sherman, Lin-Manuel Miranda's former roommate and an orchestrator for In the Heights. The only person who didn't make it? The DJ. In need of music, they asked Sherman to provide the accompaniment for the night. Sherman told the two that, unfortunately, he couldn't really play the piano, but he could damn well play the saxophone. The three made up an entire 45-minute show on the spot, to a super delighted crowd. Sherman even made the jump with Veneziale and Miranda when the unnamed improv rap show eventually got up and running at the Pit Theater. Still wanting a piano, Miranda recruited his elementary school friend, Arthur Lewis.
Lynn and I were working on some other music together, and he had started doing this thing with Anthony, and he came over one day and he was like, "You're coming to do this show. You're going to play keyboards." And I was like, "I don't know. I'm nervous about doing stuff." And he's like, "No, man, you're doing it."
You're doing it.
Okay.
At first glance, the performers jumping around the stage each night at the Improv Theater were the furthest thing from a professional rap group. Veneziale worked in a bookshop that sold plays, and Miranda was a 7th grade English teacher. A pretty far cry from Tupac and Biggie. Chris Sullivan, a performer with a love for the Beastie Boys, eventually attended one of the group's pit performances, and instantly knew he needed to be a part of it. Without knowing any of the performers, Sullivan went right up to Anthony Veneziale and said he wanted to join the group. Veneziale asked, "Well, what do you do?" In response, Sullivan started beatboxing. A stunned Veneziale and Miranda immediately welcomed him into their growing group. The act officially had 2 rappers, a pianist, a saxophonist, and a beatboxer. Now, they just needed a name. The similarities between jazz and rap are numerous. The off-the-top competition between trumpets and saxophones mirrors that of the different voices in a rap cipher. They provide an outlet for pain, political frustration, and social commentary with free-flowing self-expression. In December 1964, a quartet of musicians led by John Coltrane walked into a dimly lit recording studio in New Jersey. Coltrane rose to prominence after playing saxophone with jazz legend Miles Davis for 4 years. A dream gig that ended on a sour note once Coltrane's dependence on alcohol and heroin cost him his job. But from this struggle spawned a masterpiece. In one uninterrupted recording session, Coltrane emerged from the studio with the album A Love Supreme. After watching a couple of Veneziale and Miranda's performances, Thomas Kail started giving suggestions for the act, the biggest being a name. Kail wanted to pay homage to the improvisational connection Coltrane experienced and suggested the name Freestyle Lives Supreme. Everyone hated it. As Veneziale recalled, everybody was like, "That's a terrible name. It's really long, and who's going to understand why you're paying homage to John Coltrane and what it means to put love in the center of this silly thing that we're doing?" But the name eventually grew on them. And thus, Freestyle Lives Supreme was born.
We are Freestyle Lives Supreme.
The group of friends rapping around New York City weren't the only ones trying to find their voices in the early 2000s. Following the unexpected death of her younger brother, Jenny Steingart was left trying to figure out how to continue his legacy. He was only 26 years old and had just started building a recording studio for his classical music record label, Pro Gloria Music.
So I was really struggling on, as you can imagine, struggling on a lot of different levels to make sense of it all, and also to kind of deal with, I guess really you could say, my own survivor's guilt of what was it like that I was going to get to live out my dreams and all the things that I didn't even know what my life would look like. And I was really struck with this feeling that I needed to continue his legacy in some way, but I didn't really know what that was going to look like.
One night after sitting Shiva in mourning for her brother, Steingart was approached by one of the catering waitresses who asked to see Steingart in the kitchen. After overhearing so many stories of Steingart's brother, the waitress had painted a whole series of work in his memory.
The penny dropped for me in that moment that she didn't know Gabe, and his life and ultimately his death had created art in a totally different form, in a different medium. And I realized then that I didn't need to continue his record label. I didn't need to worry about how was I going to keep his classical music alive. What I just needed to do was lean into the idea that on the other side of the pain and loss was beauty and art.
In 2002, Jenny Steingart and her husband John officially opened the doors to Ars Nova, a nonprofit supporting artists making music, comedy, and theater. The space faced countless struggles in its early years, thanks to a less than ideal location near the Upper West Side of Manhattan and a struggling theater scene stemming from the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Those beginning days, no one knew anything about Ars Nova, so it really was dependent on what we were all out there finding. I'm Jason Egan. I'm the founding artistic director of Ars Nova. I think more importantly, and what made its way into the fabric of Ars Nova, is I was really excited about finding P for potential. And John Steingart is actually the first person who saw Freestyle Lives Supreme.
And John came back and said, "Oh my God, yes, please." And he introduced them to Jason Egan, our artistic director.
I remember coming up the second floor staircase and the guys were all just getting off the elevator, so we all sort of merged as we walked to John's office, and I was instantly enamored by all of them. They just had such incredible energy, and knowing what they were capable of on stage was certainly feeding it, but you could just feel something special.
The elevator pitch was, it's Whose Line Is It Anyway meets the Wu-Tang Clan. And the reason why I really wanted to do this show in the first place was I was a part of the improv scene, and the improv scene looked a lot like me in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was white dudes.
Yeah.
It was predominantly white dudes.
Yep.
And so I wanted to create Freestyle Lives Supreme because I knew it was a language that was predominantly not white.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I created an improv show that was a language that was predominantly not white, I might attract people who weren't white to do improv.
Ars Nova loved the improv rap show concept, and eventually offered the group access to their 99-seat theater. Freestyle and structure go about as well together as an NWA record at a church sermon. When it came time to shape the show into a satisfying evening of theater rather than 45 minutes of random rap, Kale needed to become more of a coach than a director. Tapping back to his sports days, Kale came up with the play. Much like American football, each performer in Freestyle Lives Supreme played a different position. 3 MCs known as Mic 1, Mic 2, and Mic 3 led the field, while 2 musicians and a beatboxer provided backup. Mic 1 was the quarterback, the one in charge of leading the audience through the night and gathering ideas from the crowd to turn into raps. At Ars Nova, this was Anthony Veneziale. Mic 2 was the running back, the strongest freestyle rapper on the team who could receive the handoff of audience ideas and run with them. At Ars Nova, this was Lin-Manuel Miranda. Mic 3 was the wide receiver, usually a singer and rapper who wasn't afraid to go high to blow away the audience with their belting. To fill the Mic 3 spot, they ventured into the In the Heights cast and recruited a reluctant Christopher Jackson, a young actor with a gentle presence and a powerhouse voice. A night with Freestyle Lives Supreme started with something called the mic check, during which 3 MCs took to the stage while identifying their mic and then handed off the evening to Mic 1.
Mic check.
This is microphone 1. This is microphone 1. This is microphone 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Freestyle Lives Supreme.
Given that a majority of the audience attending usually wasn't familiar with rap, the first game, Foundations of Freestyle, introduced, well, the foundations of freestyle rap necessary to understanding the rest of the show. The group took inspiration from a popular form of freestyle where one person throws out words and another person incorporates them into a rap.
Blue, who the hell are you? I am the one that's from the Roots crew, and I'm telling you to rebel. Steve, yes, you know he's gonna leave after he busts straight pieces in Peach. Yo, I am the kid that got the speech that you can't impeach because I am not a leech. I won't.
Only in this case, the words came directly from a bucket filled with audience suggestions.
keep on doing it like Triumph the Comic and so dog high on the hawk. We cannot kick us off our log with cabers. We got our lightsabers, so fuck you and your Padawan. We keep going on till the break of dawn. Yeah, rocking all night long.
During their time at Ars Nova, Freestyle Love Supreme leaned heavier into the improv aspects of the act, rotating through multiple games for the group to play. In a single evening, they'd perform everything from angry raps about things people hated and pet peeves, to singing an honest and sentimental song in the game True. This first run also properly introduced rap names for all the performers. Anthony Veneziale became Two Touch. Lin-Manuel Miranda, Lin Man. Christopher Jackson, C-Jack. Chris Sullivan, Shockwave. Arthur Lewis, Arthur the Geniuses. And Bill Sherman, King Sherman. At Ars Nova, each performance of Freestyle Love Supreme thrived on experimentation, unpredictability, and above all else, failure.
It was just fortuitous that as Ars Nova was figuring out what it was and we were figuring out how to do our jobs, they were figuring out what this show was and finding their own voices and their own artistry, and we just sort of all came up together.
During the Ars Nova run, a producer came up to the group and told them this would be fantastic at the Fringe Festival. In the summer of 2005, Lin-Manuel Miranda started his ascent. Just as he got the news that two of Broadway's hottest producers, Kevin McCollum and Jeffrey Seller, wanted to produce In the Heights with Joe Furman, Miranda jetted off to Scotland with Freestyle Love Supreme. The Edinburgh Fringe Festival transforms the city into a district of disorder, filled with lassoing cowboys and spontaneous conga lines. Responsible for giving countless projects their big break, FLS viewed the Fringe as the next step in proving the act's formula worked outside of New York City. Even though roughly 2 million people attended the festival, getting people to notice FLS wasn't as simple as a few well-placed flyers. A negative review calling the show instantly disposable didn't help matters. The review threatened to stop an already reluctant crowd from showing up, and left the act in danger of getting lost in the sea of other performers. So, the group did what any good freestyle rapper would. They took to the streets. No piece of sidewalk was safe as they spontaneously rapped during the day to spark interest for their show that night. The guerrilla marketing only interrupted by occasional rounds of NFL Street. Slowly, crowds started showing up to their space, and positive word of mouth started to spread across the city. The Freestyle Love Supreme formula worked. A blissful ignorance shielded Veneziale, Kale, and Miranda from what would eventually be the roller coaster of the next 2 years, and the fact that their paths were about to diverge. But none of that mattered in the summer of 2005. There was just Edinburgh. Later that year, Anthony Veneziale faced a big decision. In the Heights inched closer and closer to a professional run. Lin-Manuel Miranda turned down job offers, and Thomas Kail quit his to double down on making the musical. Even though Veneziale followed the In the Heights process, he wasn't as involved as the other two. He just watched from the sidelines while auditioning for other shows. As Veneziale put it in an interview with the San Francisco Examiner, out of 600 auditions, he'd hear 40 no's and 550 nothings. The demoralizing aspects of the job started to stack up. And then, his partner got accepted into a PhD program in California. Wanting to support his family, Veneziale made the tough decision to move across the country to San Francisco in the summer of 2006. But Veneziale didn't want his move to spell the end of Freestyle Love Supreme. If anything, the past year proved FLS was far from stationary, as they performed around the globe, from Melbourne, Australia to Aspen, Colorado. While FLS was Veneziale's main project, the team connected to In the Heights viewed it a little bit differently. The prospect of a Broadway run for In the Heights became an increasing possibility. Veneziale was left with a problem. Many of the big players for Freestyle Love Supreme were also big players for In the Heights. Christopher Jackson was acting alongside composer and star Lin-Manuel Miranda, Thomas Kail was directing, and Bill Sherman was orchestrating. Kale held auditions for FLS in New York with Veneziale to find suitable replacements for Miranda and Jackson, still feeling a certain responsibility to the group and his friend. One potential replacement was Utkarsh Ambudkar. As a South Asian actor who faced difficulty finding roles that matched his ethnicity, Ambudkar escaped the unforgiving world of acting through hip-hop. Each night melted into a blur of New York City clubs, with Ambudkar doing some drugs, selling others, and rapping against anyone courageous enough to face him.
By sophomore or junior year of college, I had completely checked out. Like, I was like, all the shrooms, all the acid, and I feel guilty about it. I'm like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but it's who I am. Like, this is hip hop. This is New York. This is like 22, man. This is what we do. Smoke weed every day. Like, this is the lifestyle. So when I met the guys, you've seen the movie 8 Mile?
Yeah, of course.
I was doing 8 Mile raps, which is essentially, can we curse on this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Which is essentially dick swinging, right? It's an ego, it's an expression of all of the fantasies of one's ego. So it's like, I'll bury you, I'll carry you. This is it's mean.
Ambudkar brought this same energy into his Freestyle Lives Supreme audition, something that impressed clubs, but not Thomas Kale.
And Tommy said to me, he was like, that's great, you have the skill set. That's not what we do here. He said, it's infinitely more interesting if you can rap about the Incredible Hulk or a box of wheat thins or your parents with the same amount of dexterity as you rap about yourself.
Utkarsh Ambudkar officially joined the team alongside actor James Monroe Iglehart, leaving Lin-Manuel Miranda and Christopher Jackson to hand off their mics and step out of the Cypher. FLS continued performing throughout 2007. But with so many of the original members out of the mix and Veneziale flying in from the other side of the country, the frequency of performances slowed down. Meanwhile, in the Heights, prepared to light up the sky. Broadway's been turned on its head only a couple of times. March 8th, 2008 was one of those times. 6 blocks from where it started in the Drama Bookshop basement, In the Heights officially debuted on Broadway. Around this time, a new generation started to rise, many of whom replaced the America First sentiment with a more global acceptance, as evidenced by the first female and black presidential candidates in history. When Miranda walked on stage as the bodega shop owner Usnavi and started rapping about his community, the audience recognized that this desired change also extended to Broadway. As historian Chris Jones put it in his book Rise Up, in one night you could see how limited and exclusionary Broadway had been, what stories it had told, and who'd been chosen to tell them. In the Heights would start to change that reality. The sounds of the community that surrounded Miranda growing up blasted through the Richard Rodgers Theater in a beautiful collage of salsa, hip-hop, and somehow traditional Broadway melodies. The New York Times raved about the show and declared Lin-Manuel Miranda a singular new sensation. That June, In the Heights won 4 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, and consistently pulled in over $1 million a week in ticket sales. In the blink of an eye, the musical flourished into a sensation, taking its creator with it. As Lin-Manuel Miranda's career soared to new heights, Anthony Veneziale encountered an exciting opportunity. A producer named Karen Fowler planned to ask for a $19 million grant to reboot the 1970s show The Electric Company, essentially a spin-off of Sesame Street that focused on teaching children about sounds and how to read. And she wanted Freestyle Lives Supreme to help make a pitch. Veneziale spearheaded the project alongside Thomas Kale to conceive a couple comedy sketches to show to the Department of Education.
It went well. They got the grant. We were able to do the series. And I was supposed to be the lead. I was supposed to be in every single episode as the main character. And Karen said, well, we love you, the energy of you. We think you're like this perfect kind of camp counselor. This is kind of how we think of that role. But you're white. And this is exactly what In the Heights was as well. It's a show that is specifically made for non-white people to be in. And I love that. I'm so proud of that. That's why I got into theater. This is the conversation that I have always been most interested in being a part of.
The Electric Company reboot officially premiered on PBS on January 19th, 2009. Freestyle Love Supreme members appeared throughout the episodes in periodic 2-minute guest segments. Except for Chris Sullivan, that is. The combination of phonics and beatboxing went hand in hand, and scored Sullivan a recurring lead role for the next 3 seasons. After filming just 1 season, Veneziale flew home to San Francisco. Seeing how the rest of the FLS team was busy with New York-based projects like The Electric Company and Lin-Manuel Miranda's experimental rap concept album, the space between Freestyle Love Supreme performances grew longer and longer. Veneziale started to miss it. To fill the void, Veneziale created a West Coast variation of the act, called The Freeze, with a teaching colleague named David Diggs and an old Wesleyan friend named Andrew Bancroft.
Hi, I'm Andrew Bancroft, aka Jelly D or Jelly Donut. I knew Anthony from Wesleyan, and then we reconnected when he moved to San Francisco. I was living there for a number of years. I was battle rapping in Oakland, California, doing a bunch of weird artist things that you do in San Francisco. Wearing a donut costume, those kind of things that you do. And we started a group called The Freeze in San Francisco. And The Freeze was kind of a sister to Freestyle Love Supreme, but we had live drums, live bass and guitar and percussionist, and women rapping and singing with us.
Ladies and gents, we want to thank you all for coming out this morning. Coming out this morning. We are The Freeze.
The Freeze operated with its own distinct style and lineup of performers independent of Freestyle Love Supreme for 2 years. Then, in the summer of 2011, Andrew Bancroft got a phone call that started to change everything.
Freestyle Lives Supreme got a spot in Outside Lands, which is a great festival in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. And I lived pretty close by, doing that festival. And I think it was Anthony who was like, well, let's have Jelly join us because he's right down the road. So that was kind of my first time doing a number of shows with the group.
The wall of separation between the two groups vanished in 2013, when Freestyle Love Supreme performed at Super Bowl 47. Not only did this performance introduce David Diggs to Freestyle Love Supreme, it also introduced Diggs to Lin-Manuel Miranda. The successful 2-year run of In the Heights on Broadway didn't stop Miranda from writing like he was running out of time. If anything, it made him work harder. Miranda unveiled the concept of a Alexander Hamilton mixtape at the White House Poetry Slam in 2009. The idea was simple: get some of his favorite hip-hop idols to sing the story of the politician's life. After witnessing David Diggs and his lightning-fast rapping ability, Miranda invited him to take part in an early reading for his rap concept album, The Hamilton Mixtape. Diggs had never met Miranda before this, but after hearing one enthusiastic pitch, he was sold. Just like that, David Diggs made the risky decision to pack up his entire life and move across the country to New York City later that year. The Hamilton Mixtape concept album continued to take shape in July 2013. After a couple showcases of songs at places including Lincoln Center, the story finally came to life with 2 staged readings at Vassar College. In the year leading up to this, Utkarsh Ambudkar had played Hamilton's rival Aaron Burr, the role of a lifetime handpicked for him by Miranda. But at Vassar College, Ambudkar threw away his shot.
I'm not a trained musical theater guy. It's not like I can just show up and be dope. I have to work. But if you're drunk at 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning, that skill
ain't gonna work.
No, man. Yeah. And Chris Jackson sat me down and he was like, this is their life. This is how they're gonna put their kids through college. This means the world to them. And it's not some little shit. It's Tommy Kail and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, we already done been through In the Heights. You saw what that was. You're fucking up. And meanwhile, I'm at the bar every night. I went through that week with an inability to perform in the way that they wanted me to and knew that I could. I was unable to meet the moment because of what was going on in my life.
After the reading, Ambudkar flew back to California, and Thomas Kail and Lin-Manuel Miranda started considering replacements. Lin-Manuel Miranda missed freestyling. In 2013, the public repeatedly pushed Miranda to develop Hamilton as an off-Broadway musical, but he wasn't ready for that. He really wanted to make a concept album. Maybe he could do something else at the public. Lin-Manuel Miranda and the original members of Freestyle Love Supreme brought back their rap improv show for a couple performances at Joe's Pub, a small cabaret venue attached to the public. During the Joe's Pub run, it was just like the six friends were back in the drama bookshop basement, making each other laugh around a piano. The calm before the hurricane. Fresh off the Joe's Pub run and a deepened connection with the public theater, Lin-Manuel Miranda finally agreed to develop Hamilton as a full-fledged musical. Across the country, Utkarsh Ambudkar read the news and excitedly called Thomas Kail, ready to reassume his spot as Aaron Burr. Kail told him that after his performance at Vassar, they had to move on. The blow hit like a ton of bricks and snapped Ambudkar out of his dependency on alcohol. He flew from California to New York to audition for Kail and Miranda one last time. Even though he knew he wasn't going to get the part, he thought that maybe he could win back their respect.
And it was fucking humbling as shit, man. And they walked out of the room and I was changing and I had nowhere to go. I was like in New York for a day. I was newly sober. I was just trying to get my shit together. And I know that that went a long way for them.
1 year and one mildly successful television series later, Freestyle Love Supreme once again returned to the sidelines, as Hamilton prepared to open at the public in 2015. Anthony Veneziale sat in the audience for one of the last preview performances and was left in amazement. He'd kept up on the project's entire gestation from album to musical and loved almost everything he saw. Almost everything. Since they met at Wesleyan University in the 90s, Veneziale served as somewhat of a mentor figure for Kail, the senior who pulled the junior into the world of theater. With this seniority, Veneziale never shied away from offering creative advice and insight on Kail's directing projects. Hamilton was no different. After seeing the show, Veneziale sent an unsolicited email to Kail, offering his thoughts on the musical and suggested changes just a few days before opening night. A lot had changed since their collaboration on Hamlet Machine and Backhouse Productions. Thomas Kail was now a member of Voltron, a name for the In the Heights creative team that came from a TV show where a group of explorers pilot a giant robot. When Veneziale left to support his family in California, Voltron grew stronger without him.
And I think in a lot of ways, Tommy and Lynn, when I moved, they were a little bit like, oh, that hurt our feelings.
They missed you.
Yeah.
Anthony and I have, in some way, the furthest reach back and then the most divergent path. Because when he left, he was the person that I was with all the time, and then I was with not at all.
I didn't have a regular interaction with him, and then something had kind of just ceased to exist between us anymore.
The distance between Veneziale and his friends started to extend beyond flights and coastlines. Voltron kept racking up major victories, but Veneziale fell outside their orbit, constantly spectating as In the Heights, the Electric Company, and eventually Hamilton rocketed the team to the stars. After a Broadway smash and a Tony nomination, Thomas Kail didn't need mentors anymore. He needed peers. Something he felt Veneziale couldn't be. With just one click of the send button, the dynamic between the two changed forever. Hamilton rocketed Voltron, now renamed the Cabinet, to the top of the Broadway mountain, a path that eventually led Lin-Manuel Miranda here, to the White House Rose Garden, freestyle rapping in front of President Obama. Four years later, Anthony Veneziale, Thomas Kail, and Lin-Manuel Miranda walked into a small black box theater in the West Village in January 2019. Everything had changed, and nothing had changed. Veneziale, the guy who loved rapping at house parties, was now a family man and the co-founder of Speechless, a company that led improv and rap-infused workshops for major corporations. Kale, the jock who never thought much about theater, was now a Tony Award-winning director, revered for his bold artistic vision and collaborative spirit. Miranda, the kid who used to read plays on the drama bookshop floor because he couldn't afford to buy them, was now a 3-time Tony Award winner, a Pulitzer Prize winner, a Grammy Award winner, a MacArthur Genius Grant recipient, and one of the biggest celebrities on the planet. None of them could have predicted how different their paths would turn out to be. And yet all roads led back to Freestyle Love Supreme. Ars Nova had grown. Once a small theater with metaphorical tumbleweeds blowing through the office, it was now one of New York's top incubators for new innovative works.
Ars Nova had just taken over Greenwich House.
I think there was discussions of like, okay, well, the first show could be freestyle.
To celebrate the new space, Freestyle Love Supreme embarked on its longest run yet, playing the Greenwich House Theater for a 3-month residency.
We are Freestyle Love Supreme, and we are in the middle of a mic check. And we're gonna need your help to complete our mic check, because our show is totally made up. Nuh-uh.
From the moment Freestyle Love Supreme returned to the stage that January to their final performance that March, it was like nothing that happened before mattered. It didn't matter who missed out on what part, who had what accolades, who fell out with who. And just like that, the dream was over. The needle scratched to a halt on the record player, their time at Greenwich House ended, and everyone snapped back to reality. A reality where the electric company was canceled, the drama bookshop closed, and the innocence of the early 2000s faded into a memory. Then, in late 2019, Andrew Bancroft received another phone call.
I think I was in San Francisco at the time, I remember, and I got a call from Tommy Kail, and I'm like, oh, you answer the phone when Tommy Kail calls. And he was like, we're going to do a Broadway run. We're going to do it later this year. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
It never would have happened had Hamilton not happened, obviously, because Lynn became a household name, and I think that opened up doors for Broadway, and we just believe that people would really react positively.
15 years after it started with a group of friends, Freestyle Love Supreme opened to a packed booth theater on Broadway on October 19th, 2019. With the new venue came new opportunities.
It had been that group of guy friends for a long time. I think we all were like, it's time to get women on stage. It's time to have, different representation on stage. And we're very fortunate to have Kayla Milady, Anissa Folds, Ashley Perez Flanagan join us as the first women in the group. And it just changed the game. It really blossomed.
80% of Broadway shows don't recoup their investment, making it a remarkable moment when Freestyle Love Supreme did it just 5 days before closing. Rap ciphers thrive on disruption. The constant, unpredictable variables that force the group to adapt in one way or another. It's certain that the circle will look and feel completely different at the end of the night than the beginning. It'll grow, it'll shrink, it'll get sentimental, it'll get confrontational. There's no way of knowing how a cipher will end, just that it will end the way it's meant to. Some people will jump in, some people will jump out. But if someone truly loves it, they'll always jump back in. The same could be said for Freestyle Love Supreme. Around the same time Lin-Manuel Miranda and Tommy Kail staged Freestyle Love Supreme at Greenwich House Theater in 2019, they were also in the middle of a huge battle to save their artistic home. Click on this video to learn about the history of the drama bookshop and how Hamilton fought to save it.